Hi everyone, today is March 9th, 2019, and this is a Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week in Duel World, we saw the wrap-up of Tyranno Hassleberry's event. We have a new miniBOX. This was just announced pretty last minute, Thursday night into early Friday, I think. And this is a really cool miniBOX. It's called Dimension of Wizards. So we're going to be talking about some of those cards. We're going to split up part of the episode for that. We'll talk about the box over 2 episodes, I think. Also this week we saw the return of the Battle City Showdown. So it's the second half of the AC, I forget what it's called, Grand Prix, not Grand Prix, the Season 2, whatever you call it, when they battle on top of the blimp. So those duels and some new cards from that. Various new cards from other events as well. And I have a special announcement to make. Doug Dimmaduel, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk, has joined forces with this podcast. He's come out of podcast retirement, and he will be a contributor every week. So we're going to have a section where he talks about a casual deck of the week. This one is the Mecha Phantom Beast Elemental Hero deck, so be sure to check that out. That's going to be a new thing moving forward, and I'm glad to have him here. Hopefully everyone will as well, and will enjoy that part. Okay, so for this week, if you haven't been playing Duel Links, you wouldn't really know. But if you have been playing Duel Links at any capacity, the Hassleberry event has been huge. The Survival's End, I didn't see this coming at all, but Survival's End really created a new free-to-play deck. Free-to-play meaning you have the minimum cards. It's better if you have certain URs or SRs, but you could still play at a very high level with the cards Hassleberry gives. And this deck is very powerful, and I'll explain why. But I have joined those the Survival's End Dinosaur ranks. I made my own deck. Well, I kind of copied it. I don't make my own decks, but I was using my own deck for a little bit, and then I was looking for better versions, basically. And I'm still in Plat 3. I need one more to get into 4, so it's just putting in the games, of course, to get to Legend. This shouldn't be any problem at all, because this is a pretty good deck in this meta. And another thing is, this is episode 104 of the Duel Assessment Podcast, meaning this is the 2-year anniversary of this podcast. So we didn't really take any breaks. There isn't an episode 5, so I guess we're still one short of 2 years, but I started this podcast 2 years ago. The idea probably came up before that, but it was just getting together to work on it, and the first episode came out 2 years ago, so I'm pretty happy. We did have that episode 100 celebration, so I'm not going to celebrate the podcast, but I've been fortunate to do this for 2 years, and I'll keep going so as long as I can. Okay, so this week in esports, they did take into account the dinosaurs, definitely, in Duel Links Meta Weekly 62. So, Kawaki Meru's, they dominated last week. They're still here, but dinosaurs were number 2 in deck. Decks brought, I guess people do want to try out the new thing. Vampires kind of slipped down because of the dinosaurs. Probably some players there switched over. Ancient Gears and Lavels showed up as well. In the top 32, dinosaurs comprised 10 out of 32, but only 1 made it to the top 4. So they did get to a certain point, and then that was it. And the top 4 decks, the other 3 were Kawaki Meru. It's not really a surprise. And more interestingly, the top 2 were Sealed Tombs Kawaki Meru. So I guess it's pretty obvious that you would beat Survival's End with Sealed Tombs. And that's what happened here. First place, Serenity, Sealed Tombs, Kawaki Meru. So the core of the deck remains the same, but it's a good thing the top 3 Kawaki Meru decks all look a little different. The core is the same. This one has 3 Sphere Karibos and 2 Treacherous Trap Holes. So, and of course, Sealed Tombs. It has 2 Cosmic Cyclones as well, which is pretty good against Survival's End. So it's possible they took out, I don't know, Treacherous or Sphere Karibo for the Cosmic Cyclones. Second place, Gift, Sealed Tombs Kawaki Meru. This one, Does not run Seerkaribo or Treacherous. It runs 2 Hey Trunade and 3 Paleozoic Canadia. Same thing. There is a Cosmic Cyclone in the sideboard. The Seerkaribos are also in the sideboard, so I guess depends on the matchup. Third place, Yay Hey Dinosaurs. So this is a Survivals, and Dinosaurs is the only one to make it to the top 4. It's not refined, but you have the same monsters that you would expect to have. As 2 Evil Swarm Salamandra, 1 Giant Rex, 2 Baby Cerosaurus, and 2 Megalo Smasher X. And this one is a bit more controlly than ones you would see on the ladder. Why? It has 3 Paleozoic Canadias, 3 Floodgate Trap Holes. Paleozoic Canadia is the card you typically see more. Survivals and Dinosaurs are a Paleozoic deck. That's their second main attribute. But this one has the Floodgates, so it's an extreme control deck, I would describe. I'll talk more about the deck later, but Swamp Mirror is a card, but people don't really know how many of them to run. This one runs 2. There are Trap Stuns and Poisonous Winds in the sideboard as well. I'm not really sure how. Well, the Poisonous Winds obviously are for the Kawaki Meirus. Trap Stuns, we're not really sure how they'll fit into Dinosaurs moving forward, but it's possible. And third place, the Specialist Tie that binds Kawaki Meiru. This one did not use Sealed Tombs, 2 Hey Trunades, 3 Floodgates. So that's what's different about this deck. Alright, so that's the Duel Links Meta Tournament scene. And in their tier list updates, it's all about dinosaurs. So most of the tier list did not change. Tier 1, we still have Kawaki Meiru, we still have Vampires. Tier 2, we have Ancient Gears, we have Buster Blader. Tier 3 is Karakuri. This one's a bit more tenuous, I think, but in the tournament scene, Karakuris are known for being, they're the card advantage deck, and they draw into the sideboard. So I guess it's like how impactful the sideboard is. That's where the Karakuris go. High potential dinosaurs. So why are the dinosaurs so good? Because Survival's End is it's a card that plays on phases, and it has an advantage being a card that can activate during any phase. So that's a level of complexity we haven't really hit. Of course, on toggle is a thing you should do always, especially for this deck. Like having the toggle on, but when you're playing the dinosaur deck, having the ability to use Survival's End when your opponent is powerless to do anything about it, to chain it, is very important. And that's why a card like Paleozoic Canadia has become one of the most played trap cards, because you can activate the flip down effect at any point in the game. So playing on phases is very important. And dinosaurs, as I mentioned, they're not refined yet. They have a core. They run Evil Swarm Salamandras as probably their best monster. It has at least 2, I'd say. Some decks run 3. Giant Rex typically is run at 1, and the reason is because Giant Rex can come back after it dies. Salamandra banishes it, and then Giant Rex's effect, of course, is when it's banished, it comes back on the field. So it's a card you only need 1 of. And, of course, you don't want too many cards that can't attack directly. So that's just a 1 of. Baby Cerosaurus, very important monster. Obviously, with 500 attack, the card isn't really, it's not a beater at all. But it's the combo card. You destroy it with Survival's End. Both phases of Survival's End, actually. You could use Survival's End's first ability to destroy your normal monsters, bring it, and then it gets destroyed and it becomes a monster. It replaces itself with a monster in the deck. Or better yet, you use Survival's End's graveyard ability, and then you remove it, remove something on the opponent's side of the field, and then it becomes a permanent monster. So Baby Cerosaurus is very important. I've seen this card has been run like 1 to 3. I think 2 might be the right answer, but I'm not really sure. I think the version I'm running just has 1 as well, come to think of it. Megalo Smasher X is the most common. Next card, I think it's the 2000 attack dinosaur. That's a normal monster. I've seen King of Games deck with the red dinosaur that has 1900 attack. I don't remember its name, but it's just a beater. It works for the first ability of Survival's End as well. If you plan on doing that, I've seen Black Brachios in King of Games decks, but it's probably not optimal as well. Of course, the deck runs 3 Survival's End. That is the main card of the deck, and it can activate at any point in in any phase of the game. So that's what's good about it. The card that goes along with Survival's End is 3 Paleozoic Morella. So this card says you dump a trap card from your deck to the graveyard. So you dump your Survival's End. That's what that card's for. I've seen 3 copies of Paleozoic Canadia. Being a Paleozoics have synergy with the deck. They're just monsters. They also are destroyed by Survival's End to replace them with dinosaurs from the deck. So there's many uses for the Paleozoics. Swamp Mirror is a 1800, which will turn into a dinosaur. The attribute I don't think matters yet. I have, for some stupid reason, I turned them into divine dinosaurs. So that's no reason for doing that, but I just do that. And that's a card that you run 1 or 2 of, typically. It's a trap monster, of course. It dies to Galaxy Cyclones, so that's something to be aware of. But it is a normal monster. It is a dinosaur when you make it one. And it has energy of the deck, so it activates the Paleozoics. It does a lot. That's the basis of the deck, really. Yeah, I guess the other trap cards... You could run any like defensive trap, like Mirror Wall or anything like that, but the deck is still yet unrefined. You could run Econ too, 2 Econs. You could run Treacherous. There's a lot of options, so you could play around with the deck. So, going along with that, since everyone is playing dinosaurs, that's what I themed the survey for the week. I asked on Twitter, how long will the Survival's End dinosaur deck last in the meta? And 54% of respondents said until the next miniBOX. So the next miniBOX is coming on Tuesday. I think this question was asked before the miniBOX was announced, so maybe people thought it would last a little longer, but it's possible it doesn't. 34 respondents said after the next Kaiba Cup, so that is in next month, so they expect the dinosaur deck to play for another month. And then 12% said many more months to come, so... we have definitely seen longevity from Masked Heroes. They just dropped out of the meta, actually, unfortunately. And then vampires have been around for quite a bit of time. Ancient Gears just made it, and so Koakimeirus are, I want them gone too, but they haven't been here forever. But 12% think dinosaurs will end. Will keep going. With 2 comments this week. For IML says it will survive until the end. So, this guy loves dinosaurs. And Supremo25 says definitely next miniBOX or main box. So, they expect the deck to be power crept by then. I don't know if it'll be gone completely. It might just be one of those decks that stay, tier 5 or tier 4 forever. But they expect it to be out of the competitive meta then. So, thanks for everyone who voted on this. I am a person who does enjoy playing the deck right now. I have no issue losing to the deck. It's extremely fair. There's a lot of mirror matches, frankly. And, being the better dinosaur player is good. And, of course, I don't play the deck too well, so I do lose my share of games. That's why I'm still plat 4 or 3. I don't know what I am. But I am okay with the dinosaur deck being around right now. Okay, so this was a last-minute thing that Konami did. I found that when I was going to work on Friday. New miniBOX Dimension of Wizards. This is coming out in March 11th, so it's a few days before it comes out. And what it is this miniBOX has some chase cards. I think it does. It also brings different archetypes as spell counters. Psychics, Naturia, Maldolce, and Fairy Tales. So there are, returning archetypes that you would have to draw on past sets to make them work. So those are the Naturias, Maloshe, and then the Fairy Tale thing. Now, those are, I think they were anime only cards until recently. I think if you remember late in the anime first series of Yu-Gi-Oh, Leon von Schroeder, that's like a season 5 thing, I think. Season 5. And he plays like these Fairy Tale cards, so they are in this set. Only one of them is SR, and the rest of them are R's and N's. So I don't know how good it will actually be, but they're here. And so just because Konami told me about this last minute, I'm only going to go over the URs and SRs today. Next week we're going to go over the archetypes in whole and go over some of the R's and N's that I like. But for now, we will just talk about URs and SRs, just because I didn't have the time to look at them, or because I cannot talk for a whole hour. So I guess that there's a lot of restrictions here, but this is enough to chew on for now. And I do like a lot of these cards, so this might be a set to buy, I think. Now, the last set was one that I didn't really buy too much of. So URs and SRs, of course, there's 100 cards in the mini box. And URs and SRs come at 1 each. So let's say you get lucky in you buy your first 10, you get lucky. It's time to reset. I think that's a pretty good deal. So, especially if they have one of those promotions to get an SR or a UR. These are cards you definitely want multiples of. Arcanite Magician is the cover model. 7-star Synchro Spellcaster. 400 attack, 1800 defense. The tuner can be anything. The non-tuner has to be a spellcaster, though. If you use multiple non-tuners, they're all spellcasters. If this card is synchro summoned, place 2 spell counters on it. This card gains 1000 attack for each spell counter on it. You can remove 1 spell counter from your field, then just target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it. So, let's say you synchro summon this level 7, it becomes 2400, 1800. You could give it multiple. You could give it more attack. There are various spell counter cards. There's Spell Power Grasp. There's the Magical Citadel of Endymion and things like that. So, if you want to turn this into attacker, you can. But I don't think that's the plan here. It's a very powerful control card, and right off the bat you can destroy 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field. So you synchro summon this, get 2 counters, and then you spend the counters to clear their board. And there's no limit. You could just, if you want to use the spell counters, you can, to destroy things on the board. There's no limit on how many times you can use the spell counters. That's what I meant. So there are extreme control possibilities with this card. I mean, it's a synchro monster, so it goes in the extra deck. It doesn't take up your extra slots. Any deck that runs spellcasters can put this in. Of course, you need a tuner. The Tricky comes into mind again. It's level 5, and special summon it by discarding a card. So you get your 5 out, and then you get a fast tuner out 2. You get this card out right away. So I'm not sure if it's too much setup at this point, but it's an extra deck card. So I think this has some control capabilities with any deck that naturally runs spellcasters. Next card is Psychic Wielder. 3 stars, 600 attack, Psychic Tuner, 0 defense. If you control a level 3 monster other than Psychic Wielder, you can special summon this from your hand in defense mode. You can only special summon Psychic Wielder once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target 1 monster on the field with less attack than the synchro monster that was used this card as material. Destroy it. You can only use this effect of Psychic Wielder once per turn. So, this is a fast tuner, and fast tuners are better than slow tuners, obviously. Junk Synchron is a card, quintessential tuner of Duel Links, because it gets the 2 from the graveyard and then you synchro summon. This one comes out second, so you play your 3, this one comes out next. Hopefully you don't have Treacherous, and then you get your level 6 out. So this is primarily a card for level 6 synchro summons. Of course, you don't have to use it for level 6. You can do it the slow way if you want, and get your 4 out, and then you had your 3 out. And the second ability is not horrible. I thought it was get rid of the monster with 600 attack or less, but it's the other monster you use. So typically you're going to have your level 3, and level 3s are kind of like 1,000 to 1,500 attack. So there's a possibility you can remove a monster with 1,500 attack or less, which is not inconsequential. Next card, Dimensional Prison. Possible chase card here. Trap card. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, target that attacking monster, banish that target. This card targets. Could be a chase card at some point, I think. It's better than Widespread Ruin. It's better than Sakuretsu Armor. Because banish is better. It's kind of like, think about Sealed Tombs as a skill. It blocks out the graveyard. This puts them out of play. Your opponent probably doesn't have a way to bring cards from that are banished back. They have ways to get graveyard things back, but not banish. And the problem is the meta doesn't like battle phase only trap cards right now. That's why Survival's End and Paleozoic Canadia are so ubiquitous, because they're not battle phase only. Wall of D is a card that you don't really see much anymore. Widespread Ruin, Sakuretsu Armor. So this is not favorable in the meta. Of course, Kowakumeru's Ancient Gears, they all have ways of disrupting it. Even Karkuris do. So this is a card that I would not be upset to get, though. It's a card you probably would need 3 of at some point when the meta shifts to back to being a battle phase relevant one. I think this is a chase card, but not one you would immediately put into your deck right now. Now we're moving into the SRs, and the first one is Naturia Landois. This is a level 7 synchro, rock synchro, 2350, 1600. It needs an Earth Tuner and an Earth Tuner, a non-tuner Earth monster. While this card is face up on the field, send one spell card from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation of an effect monster's effect and destroy it. So this card is limited by requiring 2 Earths. Of course, you could just be a Naturia deck and just run those cards automatically, but it's situational. You need the spell card in your hand. Effect monsters, effects always activate. That's going to be a thing that happens every turn in this game going forward, I think. And destroying the monster is a very good deal. But this card would be there, and your opponent would know. They wouldn't know the card's effect. Like, they don't know this card's effect. They see it. Oh, it's just 2350. I'll use my ability. It's they know it's there. So, I mean, they're going to play around it somehow. And 2350, frankly, for 7-star tuner, Synchro Summon is not the best. So I think this card's limited by a lot. It has a good ability, but it's situational. And it's limited by everything about it, from Synchro Summon to its attack. The next SR of this set is Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth. 6-star Warrior Synchro, 2600, 800. No tuning requirements, and that's all the text that is on this card. So, it's Gaia the Fierce Knight as a Synchro monster. 6-star, 2600 Vanilla Synchro. I don't know if they would call these normal synchros. I don't think it has normal synergy. That would make it even better, but it's not. I don't think it counts as a normal monster. And every so often, you do need a beater. And there is the Psychic Wheel Dealer that is good for level 6s. So, I mean, we have seen Scrap Archfiend just for being, 2700. So this is 2600. I think it will be in some extra decks. For some reason, you just need it. And it can beat Paleozoic Canadia and Maximus as 2500. This can beat that in defense mode. So it has some use. Unfortunately, it can't beat the Gear Reactor Dragon, which has 3000 defense. I think this would see some play in some extra decks, honestly. Elemental Hero Escuridao. This is an 8-star fusion. You fuse a Elemental Hero monster and 1 Dark monster. 2500 attack, 2000 defense. Must be fusion summoned, can't be special summoned other ways. It gains 100 attack for each Elemental Hero monster in your graveyard. So, some Elemental Heroes have ridiculous fusion requirements. This one's pretty easy. elemental hero and a dark monster. I'm not sure if you're gonna be combining it with masked hero. Masked heroes, or maybe Seer Karibo could work. So any generic dark monster could work. Not hard to fuse. Typically, you're gonna get 100 attack off the bat with a elemental hero because you use it to fuse. So it'll be 2600 minimum. We've seen worse. It's not a great card because you need all those monsters in your graveyard. It doesn't have an extra ability. It's underwhelming. It's an elemental hero fusion. Those typically aren't too good, frankly. But it's not the worst one, I guess. Here's a really crazy card here. Millennium Eyes Restrict. 1-star fusion, spellcaster fusion. Fusion of Relinquished and an effect monster. 0 attack and defense. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you target one effect monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard. Equip this card to this card you control. This card gains attack and defense equal to that equipped monster's. Monsters with that equipped monster's name cannot attack. Also, their effects on the field and their activated effects are negated. So actually, I did not read the part about the graveyard, so that makes this card even better. So what does this card do? We are seeing the power of quick effects, and with the Survival's End. And this hits your opponent's monsters once per turn. When they activate a monster effect, which you activate monster effects every turn, so you get this on the board, and they're kind of stuck. You equip their monster to this card. It could be the one that activated the effect. It could be one standing next to it. It could be a monster in the graveyard. Typically, you probably want the one you want to negate an effect or something, or you want more attack. And this gains attack and defense. And the monster that you steal can't attack, loses their effects, and their effects are negated. So I think you would want to lock down the same monster. Depends what is on the board, I guess. And I was thinking of ways to counter this card. Vampires can get multiple monsters off the board, but let's say you negate the first monster's ability, then they stop because you normal summoned it or something. And I read the rulings. This card can do multiple monsters. So let's say you steal a monster one turn, and then you steal one the next turn. It gains attack and defense equal to the monsters. So you add them up. So it becomes strong, and you negate 2 different monsters' abilities, and you shut down a deck. So if you add it all together, this card, and even more, Relinquished doesn't. I don't think Relinquished has to be ritual summoned before you play this card, because ritual summons are not extra deck, so they're just, you draw them. So I think you can just play Polymerization with Relinquished and your effect monster, and you get this off. This can make a new deck. I think this is a chase card for sure. Obviously, if you're running Relinquished, you probably want... I don't know if you'll play the ritual card, the ritual spell, but I don't think you do need it. I think you just polymerize this card out, and it could lock down the deck, of course. Obviously, it's not going to work. Your opponent, if your opponent's playing like normal monsters like the Dinosaur deck, and they're just playing Megalo Smasher Axes and Paleozoics, then this card's not going to last too long. But I think this definitely has potential. Effect monsters aren't going away, so this is going to be a lockdown card to consider for the future. Next card is Glyph the Phantom Bird. 4-star winged beast, 1500 attack and defense. You can discard this card, add 1 Golden Castle of Stromberg from your deck to your hand. If this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can target 1 card on your opponent's side, spell and trap zone, destroy it. You can only use this effect once per turn. So this is the only SR from the Fairy Tale archetype, and if you watch the anime, they made a really big deal of the Golden Castle of Stromberg. That's just an N in this box, but you need that card to play the whole deck. So this is a tutor for that. That's why you probably would need 3 of these. And that's probably a deck you would play 30 cards, I would have to guess. And this is a tutor. It has built-in back row disruption. It has 1500 attack and defense. So all those things are good. It's not good if the archetype sucks, but it's an essential card for that archetype. Next card is Naturia Mantis, 4-star insect, 1700 attack, 1500 defense. When your opponent normal summons a monster, you can send one Naturia monster from your hand to the graveyard to destroy that monster. I like this card a lot. Great control. It's pretty much a card that you don't need Floodgate, or you don't need Paleozoic Canadian. I mean, saying you don't need Paleozoic Canadian is a mistake, but built-in destruction on a monster, it's kind of like a quick effect. They normal summon and you destroy it, that's their turn. So, this doesn't work against cards like Samurai Skull. Samurai Skull would backfire and this would, crap on this card twice, because there are cards like Samurai Skull or Ancient Gear Wyvern that have an ability when they're summoned. So let's say Blue Boy does that too, so they get their effect off. So, and Samurai Skull, of course, when it's destroyed by an effect, you special summon from the deck your Gozuki or something, and you could do another one. So, there are certain cards that this doesn't go well along, but let's say they do play Gozuki first, then you could destroy it before they can activate the graveyard ability. So, I think this is a really good card. It depends if the Naturias ever make it. We'll have to see what else is in this box, but I like this card a lot. Here come the Maloshe Magellan. 4-star, 1400, 1200. When this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card by battle or effect, and sent to the graveyard, shuffle this into the deck. When this card is normal summoned or flip summoned, you can add one Maloshe monster from your deck to your hand. So, if you don't remember, this is an archetype that was never really competitive, but they keep their deck full. When their monsters are destroyed, they go back into the deck, and then they have additional abilities. There was the Chocolates. It was a lockdown card. It was a lockdown annoying control card. But this is a really basic tutor. It gets you any Maloshe monster from your deck to your hand. So, it's really boring, frankly, but it helps maintain hand presence. Let's say you have 3 of these in your deck, you could keep getting them, so you get a monster in your hand each turn. So it's something. Another one, Maloshe Hootcake, Beast, 3-star Beast, 1500, 1100 defense. When this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card by battle or card effect, and sent to the graveyard, shuffle this into the deck. You can target one monster in your graveyard, banish it. If you do, special summon one Maloshe monster from your deck except for Maloshe Hootcake. You can only use the effect once per turn. So, this does a few things. So it's an XZ's summon card, from what I could tell. XZ's cards have a requirement like 2 level 3 monsters or something, so you can get this guy, and then special summon a card from the deck, and then you have 2 level 3s, you overlay them into the XZ summon. This also does banish, so let's say you want to banish a card intentionally from the graveyard, that's what this is for as well. So, this is a card that probably doesn't have an apparent use right now, but it's not a bad card down the line when XZ summoning does happen. Defender the Magical Knight. 4-star, 1600, 2000 defense. When this card's normal summoned, place 1 spell counter on it. It can only have 1 spell counter max. Once per turn, if a spellcaster monster on the field would be destroyed, you can remove 1 spell counter from your side of the field for each of those monsters instead. So this is the same family as Breaker, because it's, magical, whatever. So it's a counterpart to Breaker. It's not a bad card, I think, for Silent Magician. Silent Magician is... It's very strong, but it's also weak because it has 1000 defense. And people typically, flip it over, and then she has 1000 defense and she gets destroyed. So this is an extra life for her. It's not a bad card at all. The stats are decent. I think this could have a fit for Silent Magician decks. And finally, Rocket Hand. Trap card. Target 1 attack position monster you control with 800 attack or more. Equip this card. It gains 800 attack. You can send this equipped card to the graveyard, target 1 face-up card on the field, and destroy it. Then change the attack of the monster this card was equipped to 0. Also, its battle position cannot be changed. You can use this effect once per turn, and only once that turn. So this is a trap card packaged into 800 attack, equip, and one-time removal. So it is multiple things in one card, which is handy sometimes because we have 20 card decks. I don't think this is enough though. It's 800 attack. It could be a combat trick, but things like Mirror Wall aren't played a ton yet either. And you remove the. It's hard to say if this card will see play at all. I don't think it does enough, frankly. It just destroys a face-up card too. So maybe it does. I don't see it though. It seems lacking in the 800 attack and also only hitting the face-up cards. That is it for now regarding this miniBOX. I'm going to take next week's episode and look at the other R's and N's as well. Of course, I have a soft spot for some of these cards. One of my first decks was Psychics, so I do like looking at Psychic cards. Maldo Shades as well, I'm very interested in that deck. And of course, the Fairy Tail archetype, so we're going to see where all that ties in together. It's possible by this time next week there's going to be a new deck with those cards. We don't know. I don't think so, but it could happen. Anything can happen in this game. So, next up is the Battle City Showdown. And I think this happened before. I do remember the cutscenes happening, so I think it's the return of the Battle City Showdown. And there are 3 new cards this time, along with the cards they had last time. So if you're a returning player, and I'm missing the Magician of Dark Illusions. I need some more of those, and it's a benefit for me. But let's say you're a new player, you kind of get like a mix of all the old cards and new cards, so you might be missing some. First card is Exchange of the Spirit, trap card. If both players have 15 or more cards in the graveyard, pay 1,000 life points. Each player swaps the cards in their graveyard with the cards in their deck, and shuffles their deck. You can only activate one of these per duel. So in the anime, it's a bit of a not trademark, but it was a very important turning point of some sort, where Kaiba had like 6 cards in his graveyard, and Ishizu swapped it, and he was going to deck out. That was the whole fear of that episode. And this card is a lot less broken, and it's pretty much neutered completely in the TCG format, because both players have to have 15, so you're going to wait 15 turns to get milled. That's not going to happen. So this card is not going to see play at all. I think it's impossible to pull off. Your opponent has to have 15. Even stall decks have a hard time doing this. Sometimes Yubel decks go forever. It seems like you're playing the Yubel match forever, but getting both players to 15 seems almost impossible to me. I don't see his card seeing play at all. They could have made it a little better. I think it seems impossible to play right now. Of course, it could be a backbreaking card if it's broken, but it's not even close to that. Valkyrian Knight. It's a 4-star warrior with 1900 attack, 1200 defense. Monsters your opponent controls cannot target face-up warrior types for attacks except for this card. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, banish 1 warrior and discard from the graveyard. Target 1 level 5 or higher warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. So, it's a pretty good card. It doesn't have a fit though. There are various warrior monsters that are level 5, but right now I think the only warriors we see are Amazonas and Noble Knights probably, and Masked Heroes. So it could have a use for Masked Heroes. Let's say you get your Anki back from the graveyard, you get Amazonas Queen for Amazonas. It just doesn't seem to have a fit. It could have a lockdown. It does have a lockdown ability where they can only hit this card and then you make this card stronger or something. It's the best card of this new set, I think, and you're not mad to get this card, but it's just coming up with the deck right now. We don't really know what to do. And the last new card is Harpy's Feather Rest, spell card. Target 3 Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters in your graveyard. Shuffle them into the deck. Draw 1 card. If you control the level 5 or higher Harpy monster when you activate this effect, draw 2 instead. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for winds. You can only activate this card once per turn. So the artwork's interesting because there are no Harpy Lady, like regular ones. They're the various variants of the Harpy Ladies, but it's a situation where we feel they have to have a certain number in the graveyard to come back. It doesn't hurt because the Harpies aren't being played. They're not a meta thing right now, so it's just a card for an archetype that isn't being played, and that's not really a big deal. That's about today's Showdown. I've only done it once so far. I've been tired. I think I've been trying to duel and do other stuff. So, of course, I do want some of these new cards. Exchange of the Spirits doesn't really excite me. It's just a horrible card in this way it's made for the TCG. I guess it's better in the TCG than in Duel Links, because Duel Links 15 cards is 75% of the deck. I guess I'm too caught up with that card, so I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. We got various new cards from different events this week, and there are some repeats from Duelathon and Pick a Gift. We only got one new card though, and that's Hydra Tortoise, the Empowered Warrior. 3-star Warrior flip effect, 1400 attack, 900 defense. The flip effect is target one spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it. So this is a card that is reminiscent of Green Kappa. Green Kappa destroys 2 set cards when it's flipped. Flip effects aren't being used a ton. Obviously, you want to flip effect and abuse it. You want to flip it up and down. There are better cards like Breaker and Unending Nightmare right now, and he's a Cyclone card, so not too relevant. We're only getting one, so not too relevant right now. We get a second Copycat. This is a card that copies the attack of an opponent's monster. You get to trade up. You trade evenly on the monster. If you have Power of the Dark, you can defeat it, I guess. That's its upside. Lady of D, Dragonic Guard, Curse of Royal are other cards we're getting. They're not too consequential. Trudge is being added to the gate, so his special event is over. So we can farm him for various cards he has. Personally, I did like the Trudge event quite a bit. They had those special missions, or I forgot what they're called, orders, I think, where you got additional rewards for doing things. So maybe they could bring it back for certain other characters that reuse that event theme. But I did like those events quite a bit. All right. So now we have a new section, Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, Doug Dimmadule, aka Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk, has come out of retirement from podcasting and is joining forces with me. I'm glad he's doing this. I'm not a deck builder. Deck Tech's gone, so we have a new guy here to talk about decks, and he has really fun decks. He's going to highlight a self-built casual deck. It's a fun and new deck if you want to try something different. Tired of playing, the meta decks right now. So he's going to talk about 10 minutes about this Mecha Phantom Beast Elemental Hero deck. Hopefully you will enjoy it, and I will be attaching the deck screenshot into the WordPress website. So you go on the Dual Assessment WordPress site, you will see the image for this deck that he'll be talking about here. So here is Doug Dimmadule.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmadule, stepping out of retirement from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk podcast to join up with the Dual Assessment podcast, and what a huge honor it is to be a part of the program, and a big shout out and big thanks to Green Ranger for letting me be a part of the show. So without further ado, we're going to try a new segment called Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. So we're going to switch gears, and we'll just jump right into it. So the first deck that I'm working with, I'll start with the character, and it's Alexis Rhodes, using the skill Draw Sense Fire. Now, you're going to understand pretty quickly why I'm going with this skill, because the purpose of today's deck is a Mecha Phantom Beast hero deck. Now, essentially the way this is going to play, just as a quick overview, is it's going to play just like your typical Mecha Phantom Beast deck. You could run your typical strategy, utilizing those tokens on the field, but we're going to add an extra element to it that's going to make things a little more exciting and add a twist for your casual play and potentially some competitive nature to it. I wouldn't get too optimistic about this build, but I think it's still a lot of fun. So the first card that I want to go through is Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf. It's a 4-star machine, 1700 attack, 1200 defense. Its effect is when this card is normal summoned, special summon 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token, and this card's level is increased by the total levels of all Mecha Phantom Beast tokens you control. While you control a token, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and that's important. During damage step of either player's turn, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you contribute 1 token per battle, and this card gains 800 attack until the end of the turn. So where do you find this card? You can obtain it within the Tornado of Phantoms miniBOX. So a lot of the cards in this deck that I'm going to be talking about is in that box set. And I think the other one is Clash of Wings, or I think, let me see the name of this one. And of course I'm getting a network error, of course. Yeah, it is Clash of Wings. So most of this deck is going to be out of 2 miniBOXes. So anyway, the next card that I have, and I run 3 copies of this one as well, is Mecha Phantom Beast Black Falcon. It's another level 4 machine, 1200 attack, 1700 defense. When this card declares an attack, special summon 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token. This card's levels increase by the total levels of all Mecha Phantom Beast tokens you control. While you control a token, it also can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. That's the same effect that you're going to see for all these Mecha Phantom Beast cards, so it's really consistent. And anyway, once per turn, during either player's turn, you contribute 1 token and then target 1 monster your opponent controls and change that target to face-up defense position. So this works on either turn. If you played Mecha Phantom Beast before, this is a really good effect as long as you're playing with tokens. And then the other Mecha Phantom Beast monster that I run is Mega Raptor. It's another level 4, 1900 attack, 1000 defense. When a token is special summoned to your side of the field, special summon 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token. This card's level is increased like the other ones, and it also can't be destroyed by battle or card effects while there's a token on the field. You contribute 1 token, add 1 Phantom Beast monster from your deck to your hand. So you could also speed up some of your plays by searching other Mecha Phantom Beast monsters with this card. And I'll also run 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Blue Impala, only because I have one. You can try and mess around with this build and see if you want to go for some synchro plays, but you'll find that that's not really the purpose of this deck build. But just to get into Mecha Phantom Beast Blue Impala, it's a level 3 tuner. It can't be used as synchro material unless it's for the synchro summon of a machine type monster. And then the other synchro material monsters are Mecha Phantom Beast monsters in your hand or on your side of the field. While you control a token, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and if your opponent controls monster and you control no monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard and special summon 1 token. So anyway, this has got a 1400 attack, 1100 defense. Basically, what you're really going to use this card for this deck is to use the effect to banish itself from the graveyard and throw another token onto the field. Because basically what we'll do is we'll run 3 copies of Polymerization. And then also at the same time too, 3 copies of the trap card Aerial Recharge. That's the continuous trap where once per turn you can special summon 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token. At the end of each, during each player's end phase, you contribute 1 token or Mecha Phantom Beast monster, or you could send this trap to the graveyard. So basically, those are the spells and the traps. There's not a whole lot in there. And then why did I say that I want to use the Draw Sense Fire? Well, as you well know, all the Mecha Phantom Beast monsters are wind. So the one fire that we run in here is Elemental Hero Blazeman. It's a level 4 warrior, 1200 attack, 1800 defense. This is the SR that you could get from Jaden's Structure deck. So I highly recommend. I think you get one for free. I'm not sure if you have to pay in some money to get multiple copies. So you may have to spend a little bit to get multiple copies of this card. Otherwise, you could use a different Elemental Hero monster that could help you cheat out a Polymerization. I think there's Woodsman or something along those lines where it's got that 2000 defense that can search a Polymerization. You could always use that too and switch the skill to a Draw Sense Earth if you want to go that route. But the reason why I run Blazeman is because it gives you exactly what you need, all while just normal summoning the monster. So Basically what it does is if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except fusion monsters. So basically, you're utilizing that effect. You're not going to be utilizing the second effect where you could send another hero monster from the deck to the graveyard. You're really just using this to cheat out your polymerization. So seeing as the rest of your deck is wind monsters, and even if you don't have wind monsters on the field, you could utilize the trap card like Aerial Recharge to put a wind type token on the field. So you're basically what you're trying to do is utilize the tokens or Mecha Phantom Beast monsters as fusion material to end up going into the fusion play for Elemental Hero Great Tornado. And this is the ultra rare from the box set Tornado of Phantoms. It's the monster that's on the cover of the box. So get as many copies of that card as you can. Right now I only have 2 copies, so that's all I'm putting in the extra deck, but this is one of your win conditions. You could also just go with your typical Mecha Phantom Beast strategy and just kind of chip away at the life points, keep on changing the opponent's monster to defense position by using Black Falcon. You could try other methods as well. But this is really the big surprise play, is going into your extra deck and getting that Elemental Hero Great Tornado out onto the field. So basically what this is it's a fusion that requires 1 Elemental Hero monster and 1 wind monster. Now granted, this is a 2800 attack, 2200 defense monster, so it's got pretty good stats, but the effect is pretty good. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card is fusion summoned, have the attack and defense of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. So this is a permanent cut in attack and defense, and it doesn't target either. So if your opponent is running monsters that cannot be targeted by opponent's card effects, that doesn't matter, seeing as this effect doesn't target. I find that this is really good after your opponent maybe has a really excellent turn getting all their Ancient Gear Reactor Dragons on the field in the prior turn. Cutting all their attack and defense in half really allows you to try and swing for game or to really disrupt their combo plays. And then on top of that, just because I have the Elemental Hero Fire type monster, I'll run Elemental Hero Nova Master. You don't have to run this card in the deck, but if you got 2 Elemental Heroes that are both fire, you could always get this guy out onto the field as well. 2600 attack, 2100 defense, must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, draw 1 card. It's just a good way to get through your deck, but that's in the event that you have 2 Elemental Hero Blazemans in your hand and you don't have too many other moves and you just want to go for a polymerization fusion play, you could always go that route. So overall, that's the basic strategy. You could play your Mecha Phantom Beasts as you typically would. The reason why this is such a powerful deck at this point is while you have your tokens on the field, your opponent can't destroy your Mecha Phantom Beast monsters, so a lot of times you'll see people who don't quite read the cards will, they'll start going into their plays for their Kawaki Mirror deck or whatnot. They're trying to pop your Tether Wolf or one of your other Mecha Phantom Beast monsters. Well, sorry to say, but it's pointless because you can't destroy the Mecha Phantom Beast monster. So on top of that, you go into that really spicy fusion play. You could get that Great Tornado out onto the field really with just 1 card, but just by playing the Elemental Hero Blazeman. So overall, I think this is a really, really good deck for casual play. It could get pretty competitive if you're in the lower ranks, if you're in silver, gold. I think this is a pretty viable deck. Now, granted, playing in Platinum, playing in Legend, if you're King of Games, this really doesn't quite keep up with the meta, but it has the potential to frustrate your opponent. Now, you don't always have to use the Draw Sense Fire skill. I just find this one to be real convenient. You could always use stuff like Destiny Draw, of course, Kaiba Corp Bling if you want a specific card out of this set, and it's a glossy or prismatic. You could always tweak the skill to work to your advantage, but I find that just with this deck, straight and simple, Draw Sense Fire, the skill. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick just to see what the technical thing is. Yeah, it can be used each time your life points decrease by 1,500. So that happens pretty frequently, especially when you kind of have lower attack monsters that you're not having those big 3,000 beaters on the field immediately. So at least that way, the next turn, you could use your Draw Sense Fire as kind of your Destiny draw. Get that Elemental Hero Blazeman into your hand and start getting into those fusion plays immediately. So overall, I highly recommend putting this type of deck together. You could tweak it any way you want, but essentially the gist of it is run a bunch of Mecha Phantom Beast monsters, throw in some Elemental Hero Blazeman in there, and your polymerizations and your aerial recharge, and basically just go for Great Tornado and really surprise your opponent. So this was one that I posted on Twitter not too long ago, and I think a lot of people enjoyed this deck build. So I thought for those of you folks who are listening on the Duel Assessment podcast, this will be a great first casual deck to take a look at. So thanks a lot for tuning in to Doug's Casual Deck of the Week, and hope to do a lot more of these. So if anything, I'll see you next time. Take care.
All right, so thanks a lot to Doug. He will be a weekly contributor to this, sending a new deck each week. Of course, you can find him on Twitter, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk. All right, so upcoming news, Yubel will come back with new cards and new skills. So that would be probably next week's event after the Battle City one ends. Duel Quest is coming back late March. That's just, Little Yugi in SNES traversing a dungeon, which is just, Duel-thon type thing. And Sartorius will be unlockable late March. Curious to see what comes out here, because a lot of his cards are not released in the TCG, so they're going to be a bit different. Mid-March, 5D's characters raised to level 35. This is huge. We're going to likely have some new cards to talk about too, so I'm really excited for that. And of course, we get some gems from those characters. We get to play those characters again, so we could stop leveling up a Hasselberry, I guess. And also improvements to auto deck. So, very exciting things going on. And of course, we're going to go over the next, the second half of the miniBOX next week. So, thanks for listening, everyone. Find this podcast anywhere. Search the Duel Assessment. We're everywhere right now, even Spotify. Check out the podcast and more on our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Email theduelassessment@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter, duel_assessment, or my personal one, Green Ranger CCG. So thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you next week.